A very good morning and a very warm welcome, and today is your program Law and Order. As you all know, we're discussing most insightful topics to educate you with a legal background, and today also we're going to discuss one of the most important topics when it comes to the law of immigration and immigration. So to do the honors with us, we do have one of the important and a thorough gentleman to discuss on this topic. He is Mr. Nuwan Ballantudava, attorney at law and a licensed immigration advisor for Australia and New Zealand. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And thank you for accepting our invitation and presenting here to discuss some formalities with regard to the law of immigration. So basically we have focused the immigration law and certain other facts which will improve your knowledge with regard to immigration, and today we are going to discuss about the education basically. So simply, before moving to education, can you just briefly describe what is immigration and immigration?
Immigration is a very popular subject among the people, even though they don't have a proper idea about what immigration is. Even I can recall the day that I wanted to go abroad. I went to a consultant, say that I want to migrate. Then he asked, what do you mean by migration? So simply we call all these options as migration or immigration, but people have different reasons, different purposes to migrate or immigrate to another country, maybe for study purposes, maybe for family reasons, work reasons. Some people want to settle permanently. All these are coming under the immigration law.
Right. So basically with regard to the migrating and even their settling down, and
if you wish to settle in a different country, or if you want to go to another country, the set of rules and regulations that govern your eligibility in admission to that country is covered with immigration law.
Immigration law. So basically when it comes to the education, why a person needs to go abroad?
There are maybe 10-15 reasons one might have why they want to study abroad, because as we know that Sri Lanka is an education-friendly country. We have free education, and the final goal of any parent is to educate their children, even selling their old properties and everything. But for some reasons, nowadays there's a big trend, or some might call it a fashion, to go abroad for their studies. One reason might be, that they might not have enough facilities in Sri Lanka. You know that nowadays the private universities are popular, but if you say 5 years back, 10 years back, the options available with the government sector universities are very limited. We know only a small percentage of the people who enter to the education system will get the opportunity to get into the university level.
Yes.
So then there are more opportunities in other countries, like it is not limited to one particular country. England, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, those are the favorite destination for our students. And the facilities available in those countries are much higher than the facilities available in our countries, and the accreditation of the qualifications given by those universities are world ranked. And the one major reason what I have identified in my practice during the last decade is because those countries offer opportunities for young people who come for education to settle in their countries after their studies. So that settlement option or the permanent residency dream is one of the major reasons that drives the education or student visa program.
Right. So throughout the entire set of programs, when we discuss about migration and study options and employment, with regard to that, we can move into one in detail. So prior to that, sir, what are the basic concerns, or rather the requirements for a certain student to visit abroad?
Now, as I said, I am specialized in Australia and for Australia and New Zealand, but generally if we talk about the student visa program for any country, there are certain things that the immigration department or the government of that country is looking for. That is, one is your education background. So if you apply for a particular program, then you should have a basic qualification to enter that program. Say if you are going for a bachelor degree, you must have GCA levels or its equivalent. Or it might be a foundation program. So in Sri Lanka, you can now do the O-levels and then A-levels, or instead of doing A-levels, you can do a foundation program in a reputed organization.
Yes, interrupting at the middle, sir, that means completing advanced level is not mandatory.
No, not mandatory.
Right.
It is very popular and very, I mean, like, the people are educated on this now.
Right.
So you can do a foundation program rather than doing your studies for 2 years for A-levels. You can complete the foundation program in 1 year. So foundation is very much equivalent to the A-level program,
Right.
and it can be done in different streams, like what we do in A-levels, math stream, science stream, art stream. Same way, you have social sciences, IT programs in foundation, and after completion of the foundation program, you can move on to the diploma level, or depending on your points or the GPA, you can straight away get into the degree program.
Right.
There is one requirement. So if you want to go to a master's level, you should have a bachelor degree, and some universities are looking for certain level of GPA for that, and the education is that. And then the universities are looking for students to have IELTS or English language proficiency.
Right.
So the English language proficiency can be demonstrated in many ways. So IELTS is the most common thing, that common exam in International English Language Testing System. Apart from that, some universities accept some other modes of exams like PTE and other things. And there are other ways that you can prove your English language proficiency. Say, for example, if you have studied in English medium in your primary education or leading to your higher education, or if you have completed your bachelor degree in English medium, some universities might exempt you from English language requirement. And most importantly, the third factor that you need to consider when you apply for the student visa is your financials. So the the destination that you want to go, say any country, they don't want you to come on, to depend on their finance to pay your tuition fees and your cost of living. So they are expecting you to show demonstrate that you have ability to pay your tuition fees plus the cost of living. Cost of living includes your accommodation, foods, clothing, transport, all those things. So that is the most important thing. So when someone plans to go abroad for their education, they need to have a good idea about, or proper idea about, the financials required for that. So it might not be easy as what we are doing in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Right. So as you said, first we have to complete the minimum requirement.
Yes.
In education, it might be all levels, or rather a foundation, advanced level, or even a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, whatever the next step that we are going to seek, we have to complete the previous step. And the mandatory thing is the English language proficiency.
Yeah, it is also, I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but it's also good to have English. Suppose some countries is mandatory, it comes as a visa requirement. Some countries it's not a visa requirement, but one thing is, now if you can demonstrate your English language proficiency in one way, like say either by doing one of the tests or showing your previous credentials, that will add something onto your application when the visa officer considers your application, because it shows your commitment, because you are going to study a program that you have not studied in your home country, in a might be in a language that you have not studied previously. So the visa officer might have some weight on your application when when the visa officer sees that you have done your English language proficiency.
So although it might not be mandatory, the international language, the communication skills, and you're going to study something you have not studied in the home country, according to your own words. So that will give you an added benefit plus points if you know the language properly. So when it comes to the Australian and New Zealand context, what are the specialties that you see in those countries, because you're specialized for Australia and New Zealand?
Australia, the visa system is different from other countries. They are the requirements, the eligibility criteria of the student depends on the passport of the student. Say if you are if you are a citizen of Sri Lanka, and the university that you are going to apply, in a combination of that will decide the requirements. Say for example, now they have assessed they have put these countries in different levels. We are in assessment level 2 and 3 in most of the cases. But generally, when a student applies for the student visa, it's good to have their education qualifications ready. So they have to get the education, the qualifications assessed by taken from the Department of Examination rather than the certificates issued by the school level.
Right.
And then you must have IELTS. So if someone is going to apply for the master's level, you might need IELTS 6.5 with 6 in academic. There are 2 formats in IELTS, academic and general format. So if you are going for study purposes, academic is the module that you have to select.
Right.
And if it is for bachelor degree, you might need 6 with 5.5. And if it is a diploma or vocational programs, you can start with 5.5 with 5. Right. But for certain programs, like say law, medicine, you might need high IELTS requirement.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that is the basic requirement, and those are the competencies that you need to acquire when it comes to the studying process and initiating those things. So when one has fulfilled those criteria and still he or she have not sought out what is the course program, what is the degree program, simply he or she does not know what are the opportunities. How can we seek those opportunities?
It depends, the program that you need to select depends on various factors. One of the main concern is your passion. You should be able to continue your studies, because you have to have a passion to maintain, because you are, unlike what you studied in your home country, now you are away from your parents, your loved ones, then you have to stay alone and study. So then you have to maintain your commitment throughout the period, otherwise whatever the investment that you are doing for your studies will be in vain. So most important thing is your passion. So whatever the professional that you want to specialize in, you can select, because there are programs over 100,000 areas you can specialize in. So one thing that you can do to minimize the your scope of decision making, you can start with a foundation program, or you can start with a diploma program, and then while you are doing a diploma program, where you are studying something general. For example, if you are going for a business program, if you study diploma in business, in your first year, the subjects will be similar, but in second year, you can specialize either in human resource management, banking, finance, commerce, international business. So there are so many other options available, Chari.
Right. Okay. When one has sought out those options, simply what we do is to seek options. We just surf the internet and check on websites and everything. So is there, when we surf the internet, we should be credible about the information. Is there any local institution or any online platform, or rather simply you can just give an advice like just surf the internet and go to the particular university website and check. Likewise, how we absorb the credible information?
Two main streams that you can look at. One is the immigration website. For example, Australia, the government website is www.homeaffairs.gov.au. That is the immigration government immigration website, where you can get all the regulations, rules in simple, publicly available. And about the programs and the requirements are available in the university website. That is the best option. And apart from that, there are education agents listed by the university who can give you education advice and advice on the study options for you. And apart from that, we are there as immigration advisors. So we are authorized to give immigration advice. So there are 2 parts in this process. One is the education part, that is to get the offer letter and connecting with the university and finding a program option is one part. And the other the part of the process is the immigration. So you need to submit a proper application to the visa to get your visa approved.
Right. So depending on those formalities, what is the role of an immigration officer?
Immigration officer, you mean the
yes, in this advisory part and everything. What you
immigration professional or immigration officer?
Professional.
Professional. Yes. So as a professional, my responsibility is to evaluate the eligibility of the client. So when someone comes to me, so basically we look at whether they can meet the education requirements, whether they are in the right level to apply for the next level of program. and whether we have to go into the details of the requirements, such as the GPA level, and sometimes the content of the program match with what we are going to study, and then the financials, whether you have the required financials in the required format, because some might, in Sri Lanka we don't do the transactions by book, most of the cases we don't maintain our bank documents. Sometimes we do the that we don't do it in such a formal way. But when it comes to the immigration, if the immigration officer is from their country, they might expect it from their level. So then we have to prepare the documents in the standard that they are expecting. And one thing that I forgot to mention, Charit, is on top of these three main requirements: education, the English language proficiency, and the financials, there is something called GTE, genuine temporary entrant criteria. Even though you meet all these three major requirements, the visa officers can make a subjective decision on your application. That means they want to make sure that your genuine intention is to study temporarily there.
Not to go and settle.
Not to go there. It's very important that you have to prove the visa officer. You have to convince the visa officer you are going there to study for a temporary period. So that means that you have to show that you are returning back at the end of the your study period. So in that, when deciding whether you are a genuine student, you shouldn't misunderstand that the genuineness that we mean in this visa process is not the genuineness that we ordinarily talk about. Right. Someone might be genuinely intent to study there, but when it comes to the genuineness in terms of the immigration regulations, it is your capacity to complete the studies without being a burden to that country. That means, say for example, you genuinely want to study, but if you don't have enough financials, or if you don't have enough language proficiency, you are not genuine from the eyes of the visa officers.
Right. So depending on those things, first of all, we have to select a proper course or degree program and search in the internet, might be the website of the particular government or the particular university or local agents that supplied or provide the service, and then selecting those criterias and meeting all the requirements that we discussed. We have the immigration professionals to advise, and do they do the advising part as well to correct those things as well?
Yes, we can. One thing that I need to mention is that Australia and New Zealand and even Canada, most of the countries, they have their own immigration regulatory bodies. So if someone is giving immigration advice, they have to be registered or licensed by that regulatory authority. So that's why I said that I am licensed by the New Zealand Immigration Advisors Authority, and but for the study options, you can go to any agent. It's not a problem.
Right. Okay. So that to enroll with a particular degree program in a particular country, that a licensed professional should be there in order to assist the procedure. Right. So with today's program, Law and Order, we were able to discuss the formalities that basically we need to discuss with regard to the most important things when it comes to the immigration and what you call studying abroad. Right. Simply, sir, when coming up to a summary of today's program, step by step, can you just say, with your experience, what are the mistakes that Sri Lankan people do?
Most of the time, what they do is they just get the information from those who are in Australia or other countries, and they apply by their own, and they don't do a proper research. So first thing that you need to identify, as I mentioned before, a program that you want to study, that you have a passion for, and that's something that you can afford for. Because if you are going for a program that you can't afford or your parents can't spend for, then halfway through, if you stop, whatever that you have spent will not be useful for you. And also you should have a plan what you are going to do after your studies, because it's a very costly thing. So then if you have to return just after your studies, then you won't be able to earn what you have spent for your education, because these study options are available in Sri Lanka also. Most of the cases. So that's why as immigration, when you need to consult an immigration advisor, with an immigration consultant you can plan your future at least for next 5 to 7 years. So it starts with your study dream, and then we can convert that into a work opportunities, and then finally make into a help you to get your permanent residency there and settle there. Unless if you go through this program, this pathway, the investment will not be worthwhile for you.
Right. So that means what we do invest should be in a proper manner,
Yes.
and that should be genuine in the interest of the eyes of the visa officer.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to that formal context, genuinely we have to prove that our intention is to study and return back to our home country.
Definitely.
And there might be certain employment opportunities and certain other things with regard to those the area, and we can discuss it in our future programs as well. So today we were able to discuss the formalities, the basic concerns when it comes to studying abroad simply. So you might be seeking an opportunity to study abroad. First of all, you must adhere to all those issues and sort out what you really need, and to get the proper advice from proper places and proper professional personnel. Right. Okay. So with that, we are going to conclude today's program with regard to the law and order, and we are going to move ahead with one of the most insightful topics and a continuation of this program as well. So thank you for watching, and thank you, sir, for joining with us with today's program, and we hope to meet you the next week as well. So until then, stay safe and have a nice day.